Hello, hello, it's 1 o'clock. Welcome to our webinar. I would invite everybody who is joining us virtually. I'm here with 20 beautiful people here in person today, but if you're joining us virtually, please turn on your cameras so I can see your beautiful faces. And if you can't hear me, somebody tell me.
We hear you.
Yeah, we hear you.
Hello, thank you for the chats. Yay. Beautiful faces. You can see, even though Activity Professionals Week was last week, we here in Michigan have deemed it to be a full month. So we have a lot of friends here saying hi, and it's like ghosts with a virtual background. We have our quarterly meeting here in Michigan for Legacy and Life Enrichment. So I'm super excited for you to join us this beautiful Thursday. Okay, everyone loud and clear. Thanks, Tiffany. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. This is the first of 3 modules for bringing engagement standards to life. Rebecca did one on Tuesday. Then in a couple more weeks, there's going to be a second module, and there are 2 offerings for that. You only need to go to one of them. And then 2 weeks later, there's a third module and 2 offerings of those as well, and you only need to go to one of those. So Daniela is helping me with the slides today and also the chat box. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So today we're talking about our standards and bringing standards to life. And we know that our standards are not just rules, they're the foundation for creating purposeful, fulfilling experiences that drive resident well-being. High engagement reduces depression and boredom while improving cognition and quality of life. And that's a quote from Linked Senior in 2019. Some of the key outcomes we're looking for today are measurable improvement in resident happiness and wellness, as well as greater participation and satisfaction across all service levels. Next slide. So today, we are going to take the next step from our vision to standards. So we know that at Hardwire Synergy in November, which was amazing, we explored our vision for 2025 with purpose-driven programs, data-informed decisions, and measurable outcomes. So we shared the vision there, and these are some of our next steps from turning our vision into standards. And so we're going to today look at operationalizing this vision through clear, actionable standards. So let's talk about why standards matter for resident well-being. So we know that standards ensure not just activity completion, but also meaningful engagement aligned with resident interests. So listed here on the slide are some of the benefits of our standards and the well-being that comes from that for our residents. So some of these include providing a clear structure, improving staff efficiency, increasing resident participation with balanced, well-planned activities, building family trust and satisfaction with thoughtful programming, ensuring alignment with health and wellness goals, creating consistent, purposeful programming. And given that, let's talk about a little interaction here. What are some of the risks of not doing these things? Or what are some of the negative consequences if we're not following our standards? Go ahead and put in the chat box or come off mute if you like. Anybody here got one?
Increased falls. Did you hear that?
So for example, if we're providing a clear structure, what are the risks of not having a structure? Yeah, thank you. Increased behaviors, depression. Yep, more falls. They think we don't care about them and decline cognition. Yep. Cognition and physically, right? Multiple facets. What's the consequence or risk of failing to build family trust and satisfaction? Yep, social withdrawal. Thank you. You guys feel free to holler out too if you want. I don't think I can hear you. Chat box it is. We're balancing multiple technology modes today. Okay, so all good feedback. Yep, boredom or depression. So Danielle, if you want to go to the next slide. Thank you everybody for your input. Just trying to get us thinking about some of the negative consequences of not following our standards. So here are some of the examples we listed. So missed opportunities, limited variety of activities, so not well-rounded and not meeting each person's interests and needs. Neglecting key areas of wellness, a lack of socialization opportunities, and inaccurate data reporting, and which can also lead to a risk of a state citation. And none of us want any of that, right? All right, people waiting in the waiting room. Let's see. No? Okay. Some can't hear me. Can everyone still hear me? Yes, some nodding heads. Okay.
I can hear you.
Does somebody want to try and say something? I just turned my speaker on.
Can you hear me, Alyssa?
Can you hear me?
I can hear everyone.
Okay, chat box it is. Thank you guys. All right, so let's go to the next slide. Keep plugging away. I appreciate the affirmations. You guys are amazing. So what does our resident programming and our standards look like in action? So every day is an opportunity to create joyful experiences. As you know, that's why we're all here, right? Engagement knows no nights or weekends. Programs can be staff-led, resident-led, or volunteer-led. For example, an evening painting activity may be a great time for a college student volunteer. Our minimum requirement is 2 evening activities a week right now. I know that some campuses have implemented some circle of friends or more than 2 evenings a week, which is fabulous. And as we know, minimum trips of twice per week in HC and AL and once in Legacy. So let's talk about weekends and evenings. So this is rhetorical. You don't really have to answer. You can chat in the chat box if you want. But if your campus is not able to provide weekend and evening programs that are just as great as your weekdays, consider what is at least one barrier that you're facing. And this may take some time to think about. I encourage you all to take notes and some takeaways here, but think about like your evening or your weekends. And if it's not great, what is at least one barrier that you can brainstorm with your team to work to improve? For example, if weeknight programs are poorly attended, consider holding a resident committee or using your monthly engagement meeting to talk about what they would like to do in the evenings, and even how the residents themselves can boost evening participation. So are they sick of Kings in the Corner every Tuesday and would like to learn a new game? You might have a resident who would love to teach everyone how to play their favorite family game growing up, and win-win, your staff is now freed up to do other things. I grew up playing this card game called 7 Up, 7 Down, and other people have called it Oh Hell. I don't know, but I would love to teach that to some friends if I was living in your campus. All right, next slide. Another thing with not being able to hear, sometimes for me, like my F1 mute button on my keyboard, if that's pressed and lit up, then your computer itself might be muted. Something to look at. Okay, so let's look at how we create holistic engagement. So each category here in the programming standards supports different aspects of wellness, from physical vitality to emotional connections. Residents participating in weekly physical activities report 30% higher satisfaction with their overall wellness. A brief reminder for our Home Again program, we should be doing a minimum of 3 check-in times per week for leisure needs and bringing that hospitality card around and ensuring that they have access to computers, puzzles, magazines, and wellness tips. So these are the minimum standards, and I know a lot of you go beyond these, and these help us to provide well-rounded, individualized program calendars. As a best practice, and we're going to look at this in a minute when we jump over to LifeLoop and look at some actual things to do in LifeLoop, to attach the program description for the activity so that the LEA or whoever's leading the program is ready. They don't have to, I don't know how many times I hear, I didn't know what the trivia was that was on the calendar and I had to Google it and find something. We want to set them up for success. So if we're putting on the calendar, leave them a nice little attachment so that they're ready to go. Right, next slide. Person-centered calendars. So aligning our standards, we looked at the minimum standards. Now with what do our residents prefer? What are they into? So when residents see their preference is reflected, that they feel valued and they feel empowered, right? Wouldn't we all? So as an example, a resident who enjoys nature but dislikes group settings might benefit from a personalized walking program or gardening project instead of a group trip, right? So we already have some strategies for personalization in place. We conduct resident assessments and collect their feedback. We engage resident committees for program input and volunteering. We regularly review participation data to refine activities. And this is part of this series of webinars, you all, is we're going to dive into LifeLoop to help you have the tools to be able to do that. And also we want to be building flexibility into the calendar to accommodate unique preferences of our residents. Okay, so we're getting into the nitty-gritty here. This picture is so cute. The role of categorization being accurate in your engagement. So why it matters. A well-balanced calendar is good for all the dimensions of wellness, right? It matters. It's the role of accurate categorization. What I mean by that is ensuring that what the activity is categorized with the standards. So Vitality is an exercise program, right? Vitality is not bingo. It helps facilitate efficient audits. And it also avoids misleading trends, such as overrepresenting Vitality attendance when those activities are miscategorized. If we labeled bingo Vitality because they have to pick up a chip, that is definitely miscategorized and misrepresented, right? So when we're thinking about how to categorize a program, just think about what is the purpose of the program. And as you're moving forward and planning your next month calendar and continue to hone in on the details moving forward, double check each activity's purpose when assigning categories and use the tools we're talking about to ensure consistency. And include a secondary review during that process. So when I was an LEA, the LED always asked us to review the calendar, have a second, third, fourth set of eyes on that, and also feedback. And that's something I took with me and did with my team as well. And I think there's a lot of value there beyond this categorization, but team buy-in and all the things, right? Okay, moving right along. So we already have a couple of tools in place. These are both in Compass for successful consistency in our programming. So one is a calendar accountability tool, which tracks adherence to the standards. It's hard to see here, but it lists each programming standard and the minimum of how many times it should occur. And then you have week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. That's the monthly program planner, and then the calendar accountability tool is the other one. And those are the names of those. So if you want to write those down and you can put those into the search and Compass, you'll find those tools to help you. And we all know we have lots of wonderful tools at Trilogy, right? And if you feel that you'd like to review yourself or with your team the Trilogy Service Standards for Life Enrichment, the TSS guide is also in Compass, And we're all the way down on page 34 to 40, and you can review like kind of the why. That's what I really like about the TSS guide, is it tells the why of each of those programs. So those tools are available. And then next, Danielle is going to stop sharing, and I'm going to share my screen and show you a couple of things in LifeLoop to help you. And we had a call with LifeLoop a few weeks ago, and I learned some great stuff, and I'm still learning. So I'm excited to share some of this with you all. Ish. Okay. Caitlin's the lucky one. This is her campus. Okay. So how can we use LifeLoop as a tool to ensure we are hitting all of our standards? Somebody let me know. Can you see the screen?
Yes, we see it.
Dawn Green, I can see you. Can you see my screen? Can you give me a nod? Yes, thank you. There's so many windows, you guys. I appreciate you. Okay. So here we are on the homepage of LifeLoop. We see some really great things. I have just her health center picked right now. And wow, 95% of people who have attended one or more activities in the last week. That's fantastic. So let's hop over to the calendar. I encourage you to take notes. I am literally, everyone here can see me reading right out of my notebook because I wanted to make sure I could remember all the things. Because I'm gonna show you a few different great things today. Okay, so earlier we talked about ensuring that whoever's running the programs are set up for success and they have the activity attached. So for example, Bible study. If you had a particular Bible study program you wanted to include here, you can attach it, attach file. You can also attach content, and this is something new that I learned. If you're going to use some of the religious material right in LifeLoop, or say it's a lifelong learning travelogue, any of the great content we have in LifeLoop, you can actually attach it right here. And look, it pops up this LifeLoop content, and you can do your search, or you can go to any of the categories that we're familiar with and attach it right to that program, and then they have it right ready for them at a click with their iPad. So that was something new I learned that I really like. So I clicked on the activity. Those are at the bottom. Another way you can do that is right here on the program. Once you hover and this pops up, we can click edit and scroll down, and that's at the bottom of that as well. So where you can attach your file or select that content from LifeLoop. Awesome, right? Okay. So going back to the calendar. Oh, you can also make that recurring when you do that. I think if you saw when it popped up, it said this activity only or all future activities. You could make it recurring. For example, the example LifeLoop used, if you're using their bingo caller, you can just make that recurring. Okay, so then we also talked about auditing our calendars for the Trilogy Service Standards and making sure we're at least meeting those minimum categories. So right here on the calendar screen, if you click filters, there are several filters we can use, but say I want to look at, like I mentioned, vitality. So they're crushing the minimum and doing it every day of the week. Good stuff. So you can go back here and exit that, and you can pick one or multiple categories for your own calendar so that, I don't know about you all, but I've sat here before I knew how to do it and like try and read through and count the entire month. And yes, that takes forever. So that's a really nice way that you can start to audit your calendar. It'll save you a lot of time. Okay. that's some things in calendar. And on each of these webinars, we're going to dive into some more details. So I'm going to leave calendar right now. And as we move through the content in the next few weeks, we're going to learn some new things each time. But now I'm going to hop over to reports. And I'm going to be honest, this has been a little overwhelming for me. And so this has been very valuable for me to learn this as well. So in reports, you can, and this is going to help us audit our calendars for quality as well. So in the time range, you can pick whatever time range you want that you're looking at. I'm just going to keep it simple. And the mode, we're looking at activities. We may use these another time, but today we're looking at activities. And then filter by campus. And your communities, I'm going to narrow in on health center again. And then here, once again, we can filter by activity type. So just keeping with the theme. I'm going to click vitality. And apply filters. You guys are like church mice. Thank you. Okay, so here we can see in the last 30 days, the names of the programs and some numbers over here that we're going to learn a little bit more about these in detail at our future webinars. But this helps us tell if the activity is well attended. And so I can pick just vitality and see like what's going well. And if something's poorly attended over time, I might next pick the last 3 months and see over time if something's poorly attended, then I know I probably need to change that activity. When we had this call with LifeLoop, they basically called attention to this right-hand column for this purpose. And some of them did have red numbers. At this campus, they don't have any red, which means the attendance is going down. But greens are good, and we have a lot of good numbers here. Okay. And now this is the last thing for LifeLoop today. So we did calendar, we did reports for our activity types. And again, play with your different types here. I'm just giving you an example. Now I'm going to go up to charts. So I'm still in reports, and then at the top, charts. And for me, I have to pick it each time. Yours should just load for you. Where are you? Do you guys wish you had this drop down on your computers? Okay, no, bye. She's right across from me. Okay, so this is kind of fun. I'm looking just at this for the purpose of this webinar today, the activity types breakdown. This is a broader view, once again, to help you audit your calendar. And it's easy for an at a glance for the whole month. So let's look at, if you hover over this, so for November, for example, these are the numbers of that category activity. And so if you are really auditing for quality, that's again, back to the correct category. That's really where this comes in, because this is going to break down for us the number of what we're doing for that whole month. So we saw a weekly, daily view earlier. Now this is just a nice monthly view. Okay. All right. So any questions for us? Feel free to put in the chat box. Any questions here? Helpful? So I'm going to finish with this last slide, kind of call to action. If you have any questions, go ahead and put those in the chat box and we'll take a moment to answer those. So call to action. for life enrichment directors, audit your calendars and check for alignment with the engagement standards that we just talked about. I hope those LifeLoop tools make this easy for you and quick. Use the feedback that you are looking at in LifeLoop to regularly refine the activities based on your resident input and attendance. And then committing to consistency and ensuring equitable engagement opportunities across all days and times, weekends, evenings, all that good stuff. Okay, no questions? That was my speaker, that didn't work. I gotta tell you all, I'm so thankful for my team, like all these people here, Daniela helping me from Indiana, like in the LES team who have been helping, much appreciated. This is a good resource to find out which LEAs are better at which activities. Nice. And next time, the second webinar is where we would like you to invite your LEAs to join that if they're not able to watch that webinar, because that's going to focus on the importance of charting and diving into that and the importance of accurate charting. Right, Daniela, that's module 2. We cannot see which LEAs are charting on what, unfortunately. We've asked. It's not a feature that's available right now.
Is that something that's going to be
Put it on our
planned?
wish list,
Sure.
right?
When I chart one-on-ones, I have them initial it.
Oh, so Susan just said when her LEAs chart one-on-one, she has them initial it in that little comment section. That's a good idea, so you can see who's doing what. I like that. What day is that? So great question. In 2 weeks, we tried to keep some consistency. There's a Tuesday 10:30 and then a Thursday 1 o'clock for each time we're doing this. And again, you only have to join one of those 2 offerings during the week. Yeah, I'm like pretty good at technology, you guys, but I'm sorry about the volume. I'm also hooked up to a TV, so that might be part of it. The dates, let's take a look. So the 11th at 10:30 of February, and then the 13th at 1. That's the one with your LEAs. Then 2 weeks later, Tuesday the 25th at 10:30 or Thursday the 27th at 1. And if you don't have a calendar invite, reach out to your Life Enrichment Legacy support because they should have forwarded those to you. I had some errors with mine, so it may not be their fault, but just if you don't have it, reach out to them. Anything else? Helpful? Awesome. All right. Hey, look, we scheduled 45 minutes just in case. It's 1:29. Have a great rest of your day. I appreciate you all. Happy Activity Professionals Month. Woo woo. Bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.